before we start, let's just check if everybody has their screens on. If you have any questions, there is always going to be a chat. Just don't forget, when you're sending a message that you want us and the other people to see, choose 2 hosts and panelists. That's the way to everyone, so that the people actually in the meeting see, and maybe somebody else will answer. If you want to address directly us, just choose hosts and panelists. After each talk, there's going to be a 5 to 7 minute Q&A, so you will be able to ask me, Marina, and Robin about any things that we're going to cover today. And of course, this webinar is going to be recorded. Later on, we'll share the link with everybody who is registered for the webinar. Anyway, to cut long story short, I'll just introduce all of the speakers and we'll start with me. So I'm Artie, I'm from TestGear, and I'm gonna be the first one to present today. We also have Robin. Robin, say something.
Hey everyone, my name is Robin. I come from MIRA.com. Nice to meet you guys here.
And we also have Marina.
Hi everyone, I'm from Flo Health. I'm based from Minsk, Belarus, and I will be happy to share our experience about data quality.
Yeah, amazing. So the thing is, today is basically just a talk about guys who figured out how quality assurance should probably be based and built. It's only based on our experience, so you are free to disagree and of course ask questions. That's the whole point. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to start with the cool thing about how test management can be made easier. Basically, what I have always been thinking about, how you can make your everyday job more effective. And there is one thing, of course, it's not a new thing. It's a thing that has been born within the confines of Toyota. And even before that, it was based on Zen philosophy. It's called Kaizen, and it has the fundamental principles which allow us to incrementally improve our performance day to day by a fraction of a percent, but still we can always find better ways to do things. And today I'm going to talk about Kaizen's 5S principles in quality assurance, which can help you save time on routine tasks. A little bit about me, why I generally need to be listened to. Maybe I'm not the best person to talk about it because I'm not actually QA. I'm in the QA industry, but I'm a business development director at TestGear. I've been dealing with hundreds of QA teams in the last several years. And one of the things why we are doing what we're doing is that we are a team of ex-testers, ex-QA people, and what we are building is a tool by testers for testers. We want to make everybody's life a bit easier, a bit more joyful, and of course, much more effective. So today we're going to talk about those 5S principles in Kaizen. It's not going to be a huge philosophy talk, of course. It's going to be just a backbone of our conversation. But the 5S principles are pretty universal. If you find other places in your life you can use them in, feel free. I'm just going to share this Eastern philosophy with you today and see how it lands on the quality assurance workflows, quality assurance culture in general. And yeah, those 5S principles are seiri, seiton, seiso, seiketsu, and shitsuke. By the way, I'm an anime fan, but my Japanese is atrocious, so sorry about that. I'm going to be using mostly English words for that, so that's why you have the translations: sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. So let's start with the first one, seiri. It's loosely is translated as sort, but the main idea about theory is that you need to start by bringing some structure to what you are working with. Of course, when you are in a small company, in a startup, maybe you're the only QA person there, it's kind of easy to keep everything in your head, or maybe on some pieces of paper, maybe some Confluence pages, or in a Google Doc. You don't really need much structure. But once your project starts growing, the product becomes more complex, you cannot just have a dozen checklists just outlining the main points in your, I don't know, like mobile app or a web application. The main thing is that you always have to think a little bit further ahead to bring some structure, to bring some order to what you're doing. And the most important thing, of course, is how you approach this. Some people prefer to use mind maps to structure their thoughts and structure the general outline of what they're working with. Other people would prefer some tree structures, like folders within folders within folders. Yet other people want to visualize it in their own way. The most important thing here is that you need to be effective in this case, and the test model can be arranged in various ways. We at TestGear do it this way. So first of all, the first level of order is, of course, the projects. Those can be several products that you're working on, or several areas, major areas like backend, front-end, API that you're working on as well. And within this, you have the test model, which can be organized in various ways. You can have all sorts of embedded sections which outline either the areas or functionality of the features that you're working with, or sometimes the good idea is to have a section that just outlines all the test cases or checklists of the things that you think just come together. So a folder structure is usually the most well-known and probably the one that you would be most comfortable with when you approach bringing order to your test model. One of the biggest issues, of course, is how do you generally organize? You need to have a specific, I wouldn't call it a philosophy, but at least a methodology of how this is organized. For us, generally, it's always up to you. You can have all sorts of embedded sections. The section itself can have its own conditions, preconditions, and postconditions if you want to have a specific requirement which needs to be tested before you work with anything inside. And within this, of course, you can have all sorts of work items. It can be a test case, which is a generally accepted way of creating a test scenario with steps and expected outcomes, or it can be a checklist. So a checklist would look like this, and it basically is a high-level test of a specific functionality. By the way, in TestGear, whenever you want to expand your checklist, you can always transform them to test cases, and they will already be equipped with expected outcomes. Or you can even add test data and comments to them, which will always add a specific level of enrichment and structure to whatever you're doing. So coming back to the idea of the sorting thing, of course, when you sort things and when you are looking at a huge table in front of you, what you're thinking of, oh my God, how am I going to find my way around this stuff? Well, just filter it the way you want. As I said, you can use any attribute as a filter, and you can actually create filters. For example, you can have high priority, not ready test cases and use the filter to quickly find them. Again, this is a way to cut off, to peel off a little bit of your time every day when you're doing your specific tasks. Of course, this can be done with Google Sheets or a lot of other TMS, but not doing this will definitely make your life much more painful. day to day. Another thing that you might be useful, okay, I have one and the same test case, but I've been managing it, maintaining it for decades, at least for dozens of weeks, and has been so enriched that there are dozens of versions. What am I going to do if I need to find a specific version of that test case in the past? Well, for that matter, we use version management and the ability to see the specific changes that were done, just to show one of them, canceling the saving of masked action. It has 6 versions, for example. And when you go to the side-by-side change, you will see that in these 6 versions, something has been already done. You can change the reviewer, you can change specific steps, priorities. If you change something inside, of course, you will see the highlights of GIFs of the differences. So, for example, in this one, there were 5 versions. And you can see also all the history, how it worked in specific test plans. Of course, the attributes allow you to sort your workflows in a specific way. So once you sorted your test model, you also want to specify which of these test cases are in specific priority, specific severity, if they have a specific reviewee that needs to have a look at them before they come to a test plan. All of this can be also assigned using a good tool. Might be a different test management system, but in TestGear, we use them on the level of projects. Once you have sorted out your test model, you need to build a workflow around this test model that allows you to figure out who needs to do what in a specific stage. For example, if you have been working with Jira, you have probably seen those dozens of times. Jira workflows are probably the standard of the industry, or wouldn't call them the best practice though, but a lot of people are following either standard or custom workflows in Jira. And even if you are using some plugins for test management in Jira, this is also an example of how workflows can be built around a specific tool. We also have project settings integrations with Jira and Azure DevOps if you're using it for bug tracking. If you're using automated testing and your tests are launched in pipelines in CI/CD systems like Jenkins, GitLab, Bitbucket, or any other, there is always a way to connect them to the tool of your choice. In our case, it's connected to the project itself. So if you go to the project settings, you can see which external service the project is connected to, which projects in the service are used for the duplicates of the test cases, which is also important for traceability. And you can even specify in which projects, which types of issues will be created. The webhooks will allow you to change the test plan status or to change the status of the auto tests whenever you want to launch it from the interface. So in our case, we use Jenkins, but as I said, it might be any other CI/CD of your choice, which has a public API. So a general idea of a workflow basically means that specific people and specific tools have to be triggered to work at a specific time. So the whole testing process in our methodology works around a test plan. So you have a test model, of course. This is basically the building blocks of the testing process. Once you have a test plan, at least in your head or in your schedule, you already need to think, okay, where am I going to store the defects that we have found? How am I going to launch the auto tests? How am I going to report everything that has been done? And how are we going to build the execution itself? And this is something that we're going to address soon. As I said, in the project settings, you can say what is being done at a specific model, but also by whom. The main idea is that people in bigger teams might have different access. Well, just to showcase how this can be done, a quick look at the administration. In our case, we have project roles that allow you to manage all sorts of permissions on different levels. We have some preset roles, but we can also create a custom role and then allow access to a specific module of the system, to specific functionality, and this will affect your workflow in a bigger sense. For example, if you are a bigger company and you have outsourced personnel, you don't want them to be able to have the same level of access as your own test managers. Then you will create a project that will only have those people with a project role as test executors, the ones that perform testing, but they will not be able to create a test plan. They will not be able to change the test cases themselves, and they will not be able to launch auto tests in a way that your QA automation team would be able to do that. Say so is basically the core of the 5S principles, because the most important thing of why it is generally translated as shine, but the more correct way would be polish or peel off. The main idea here is that every time you perform something, you need to make sure that it is perfect and it also takes as little effort as possible. And here is, as I said, the core of the testing process, in our opinion, is the test planning and execution. Usually, apart from maintaining the test documentation, test planning and performance are the biggest time eaters for the QA team. And here again, we tried to do to make life as easy as possible for the people who are involved in the process. First of all, the test plans can be created in a very quick way. Just going back to the project. Creating a task plans is basically just giving it a name, and whenever you want to add additional information like what is exactly being tested in which build and when is the dates, it can also be entered in the test plan data. The tags are a good way to, again, sort and organize the information, because these tags will then be used in dashboards. Test plan itself looks like this. You can have all sorts of test cases, both automated and manual, in the same view. And the main idea here is to be able to have a united, a combined report whenever you execute and finish your test plan. So coming back to a test case, which is, for example, in progress, we can see that we have planned a huge test suite. And in the execution, we have the sanity testing. Some of the tests have been already run, others are still not done. The best way to plan this is, of course, to create a test suite from scratch. But if you already have some sections of the library that are, for example, pre-vetted for smoke testing, or, for example, you have a section with automated tests for regression testing and you want to launch them from the interface, you can always create a test suite from a section which has already been done. Yep. And once you come to this section, in this case, you can see there is no tester because I haven't really assigned anybody. Let's imagine that you don't have like a dozen of test cases here, but you have several hundred. Going through them and assigning them to testers one by one would probably eat half of your day. And if you don't want to focus too much on who is going to do what on a specific configuration, you can always use auto assign, choose the people who are going to do the testing, like these 4 guys. And then the auto assign will use the duration of each test case as the point for distribution. The duration is an attribute which is calculated right now, which is not quite calculated right now. It's something that you put in when you create the test case. But whenever you are doing the execution, so for example, you're going through a manual test case, you have a timer. And when you see that each test case have an average time to pass, you then will be able to adjust the attribute for duration. And each time, every test plan that you do, your estimation of time will get more and more precise, which allows you to actually, again, cut time on the regression testing. On any pretty much sort of testing, whenever you have a lot of test cases in it. And the most important thing, of course, in a test plan is being able to launch both automated and manual tests at the same time. So, for example, I'm going to filter by some automated tests. I want to choose several of them and launch a test run. And when they go into pending mode, the webhook gets posted from TestGear into the CI system, which is connected. In our case, it's Jenkins. And while the auto test is running, you can move to the manual cases and start passing them yourself. So you can use it both the step features, or you can use the whole folder. And whenever you create a bug, for example, in our case, it's connected to Jira. You create a bug, you add all the information you needed, and then you will have it in your connected bug tracker. So I have basically shown everything that our SASL shows. So the things to take away here, whenever you want to make your test planning and test execution faster, you need to use specific features and specific tools for all the phases, for choosing the test cases that need to go to a specific plan, creating the test plan from scratch or from a preset, distributing the workload among your employees, and of course, combining auto tests with manual tests so that you will be able to create a united report. And while we're talking about reports, the biggest issue that we have seen with a lot of distributed teams, and distributed here means not only working from different locations, but also, for example, when their responsibility is distributed. Some teams are testing front end, others are testing back end, others are doing just API testing. There are also UI testers, accessibility testers, and so on. And you need to have a report which covers all of your product, or a specific release candidate. It's always a pain in the neck to create a unified report and then give it to the stakeholders to make sure that your product is in a good shape. That's why we have test plans reports, and we have a specific sort of reports for, sorry, just need to switch back. And so the test plans reports, let's switch to the one which is already passed. It looks better. So looks something like that. You can see all the tests which were made, the defects which were found. You can see that they are already connected with Jira, and you can see the status of those reports, of those bugs, if they have been already taken by the devs to fix, and if the priority has changed. And a more high-level view of what's going on in your project is in the dashboards. You will be able to see all sorts of dashboards, either trends or pie charts, bar charts, and even team performance whenever you want to make some sort of big picture for yourself or for your team of how your QA efforts are going. There are 5 different types of widgets that you can create. There are dozens of data source types, both for test results and tests themselves. A particularly good table that I really like is section result distribution, which if, again, you build your test model in a representative way of what you are testing, you will always understand which section, which area of your product has more or less bugs, more or less blockers or skipped tests, and probably you need to have a look at that. The dashboards can also be done not only on the project level, but also on the over project level. So you will be able to create a project that outlines all of the products that you're working on. You can create a dashboard that you will only show to test managers instead of internal team, and so on. Basically, the widgets are the same. The most important thing is not only to build this culture, but also to have the discipline to maintain it. So Shitsuke is the 5th fundamental principle of the 5S of Kaizen. Okay, you have done everything correctly for the first time, maybe, and for the second time, but if you are unable to sustain it for a long time, your efforts are going to be in vain. So the main takeaway here is that once you have figured out how to make your efforts a little bit more effective every day, just keep at it, keep calm, and carry on. In our case, we have helped other companies build their quality assurance processes around our tool most of the time, but also using other tools that might be integrated, like their pipelines, their test environments. And eventually, the most important thing is that it really helps to peel off almost 50% time, not only on regression, but on every major testing effort, on documentation writing, on test reporting. And the most important takeaway here is that not only you spend less time on routine tasks, most important thing is that you get more time for high-level intellectual work, something more creative. You can spend more time on test design. You can spend more time on automation, on learning new things, or understanding the product from a different angle, doing some exploratory tours. In our case, is helping with teams that have been growing too fast. It's a common problem for scale-ups or for new projects when you have like, I don't know, like 5 people in 1 month, but 12 months earlier, you've got 40 people. And if you don't have the right tool and the right culture in place, all the problems, all the growth problems that you think you have, most of the time you will think, okay, I need to hire more people to solve this problem. This doesn't work correctly. More people will eventually mean more communication troubles, and you need to actually bring them all together on board in one single interface, in one space, so that they will be on the same page and understand who's doing what, so that they don't duplicate their work, so that the manual testers don't have to retest what the automated scripts have tested, so that the QA automation understand how test design works, because they also need to do that. They can't really just write scripts all the time. And in our cases, in our case studies, we have seen that sometimes it was possible to cut the time for the whole test cycle from 6 weeks to 2, from several days to 1. And the most important thing is that when you cut the test cycle, you also cut the time to market for the product. That means that you are able to release more often, release more reliable features, something which brings more value to your end customers and eventually makes your business more profitable and just better in competition sense. So yeah, guys, if you think that you probably need to change something in your products, no problem. We can always help out, at least giving you a piece of advice. Helping you also import, migrate your test legacy or integrate with your auto tests. Done with my part, but feel free to ask questions. If there are any questions, of course, would be nice. Okay. Well, if no questions arise at this point, I'm just giving the mic to Robin. Robin, feel free to tell a little bit about QA automation in Miro, how it works, what you use, and what kind of results you got.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot. Very great presentation. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now. I see people's side, the voice is breaking. Hopefully now it's fine. Okay. So first I make a presentation by using Miro. That if you guys like to use Miro in the future for the presentation, go ahead with that. Okay, so in next 30 minutes, I'm gonna discuss together with all of you guys about how this story, the shift left testing story inside of Miro, and how it's gonna empower our quality assurance currently. And by the way, I just say my ex-colleagues and also my teammates are also in this meetup. So don't be hesitant to ask any questions in the channel that maybe my teammates can directly answer the questions in the meantime. But at the end, as RT said, that we're still going to have 5 minutes for the Q&A sessions or maybe longer. I don't know. Okay, let's go there. Maybe I'm going to give a little bit introduction about Miro. So Miro is an online video collaboration platform that you can see that I'm using that now. And it provides some communication and collaborations with some embedded charts and videos extra. And also it can embed it within Zoom and Google Extra. And it provides a kind of a lot of pre-built templates for us. For example, to create our brainstorming, planning, extra stuff on the whiteboard, we can treat it really like as a digital whiteboard over there. Okay, I'm gonna say maybe you guys gonna report some bugs if you are using Miro in the future. Also a little bit from myself. My name is Robin. I'm engineering manager of the Q automation team. I joined Miro since December last year. Not very interesting for myself. Maybe we can start with some questions that you guys going to be interested in. So first, do you guys have this kind of questions from business or from your side? Do we gonna release multiple builds every day, like 150, 20 builds every day? Do we have hundreds of pull requests every day need to be tested? As RT side, that maybe you have to run the manual test, you have to do the automation test. How are we going to do that? And do we have some situation, something like, hey, because of high pressure, right? I don't have really like a stage of testing, no matter it's manual testing or automation testing, that people are going to get that read and say, hey, I don't have time. I don't have these stages at all. In other cases, and let's say, okay, if you have a very big engineering team and also your engineering team grows very fast, what are we going to do that? How are we going to handle the quality of that? Previously, maybe we're going to have maybe 10 pull requests every day. Now we have 100 pull requests every day. What are we going to do over there? And the last thing is like, if we have a lot of, let's say, thousands of end-to-end UI test cases, and also the people still continue contributing to add new test cases, how are we going to maintain a big test project with a lot of test cases over there? I'm not sure if these questions you guys face currently or not, but this is based on my experiences and also based on some scenarios inside of Miro. So based on that, we start our meetup to understand what we can do for this. So at the beginning, I would like to share some culture inside of MIRA that we believe quality assurance is not only the work of QA, but everyone can contribute to quality assurance. That everyone here, I really means like QA developers, even the non-technical person, maybe sometimes for designing test cases or something like that. Okay, let's see some numbers at first inside of MIRA. Currently, inside of MIRA, we have every day we have more than 200 builds and releases need to be tested. So from different teams. And for the end-to-end test cases, we have more than 1.6 thousand test cases in end-to-end level. And every day we are running the test case. We are running 190,000 test cases executions per day from Monday to Friday to handle all of these 200 builds. Maybe let's imagine that 5 problems and also these situations. What are we going to do inside of MIRA? This kind of a nightmare, right? So before we go to the solution, or let's say not solution, but the things inside of the story inside of MIRA, I would like to give a very, very clear definition of shift left testing. Maybe you already start using shift left testing in your current team, but maybe it's a little bit different within with the definition within MIRA. We shift whole test pyramid to left to ensure each pieces of code can be tested properly. In the left side, you're going to see the test pyramid. I don't want to join test pyramid like an end-to-end integration unit. That you're going to see that picture nearly in every QE meetup, right? So, but let's say based on this, we may think about, hey, what would happen after we go to the shift left testing, or what is a current situation if we don't go with that shift left testing? I'm going to go a little bit deeper for analyzes these two stuff and compare these two stuff. First, let's go with a classic automation testing processes. Maybe most of you guys already using this way. Let's say at the beginning of the sprint, we're going to have some meetings like to collect acceptance criteria from business or from everyone, let's say. And then we're going to have Jira ticket, and then we're going to do coding and write the unit test cases and integration test cases. In the meantime, we're going to design the test cases and do the manual testing for this big feature, right? And after that, we're going to merge it. However, I don't put the automation test because maybe sometimes automation test, there is no a position for automation test in this moment. And we're gonna start acceptance this process again and again from the beginning of the sprint until the end of the sprint, and then some magic gonna happen at the end of the sprint. We're gonna do the sanity test. We're gonna do the regression test, no matter automation or manual testing, and then we're gonna have a go no go meeting, and poof, we're gonna have a new release, right? This is something maybe it works in your current situation, but let's reflect these 5 problems. Again, you have a lot of pull requests every day. You have to test each pull request, and you have a quite often releases every day. Seems like maybe it works or maybe not. But after this release, what are we gonna say? Hot fix, right? I'm not sure. I just guessing, right? I just assume based on my own experiences. So maybe the beginning of next sprint start with hot fix, or maybe the Friday evening is the hot fix evening, right? And then let's say how it works in the shift left automation testing processes inside of MIRA. First, I still like to say this is still on processes. It's not a final version. So we believe that we can learn with each other in this meetup and together ship a better feature. So we also start with acceptance criteria, and then we're going to design the test cases here. And after, we are talking about pieces of code. Let's imagine you have a feature. This feature can have a lot of pull requests. And once the developer's hands on this pull request for a small task inside belong to this feature, he's going to have a pull request. And then the developers or QA can contribute, can write unit test cases, integration test cases, and also end-to-end test cases together within a single pull request. Yeah, you can contribute as let's say, as a QA, I can contribute to his pull request, right? And then after that, I'm gonna run all the unit test cases, integration test cases, and end-to-end test cases for these pieces of code. Once we get 100% pass, and then the developers or the QAs or anyone can merge these pieces of code or the pull request into the master, and we're gonna release it automatically. So you may realize that, hey, look, we are talking about different things here. We are talking about pieces of code instead of talking about a feature, a big feature. So how about a big feature looks like? Let's say a feature is consisted by a lot of pull requests, a lot of pieces of code. So it means for each of the pieces of code which has been fully tested, if you remember that we have 100% pass rules here, right? So each piece of code already been fully tested and already be released into the production, released to the master. And then if we wait until all these pieces of code are tested and released, we're gonna manage this by a feature flag. So a feature flag going to turn on all of these features or single features by a feature flag switch. So now after everything has been tested, then the feature flag enabled, the customer will say this new feature. I see there is a message, but okay. So so in this way, maybe at this moment, all of us, maybe some of us already realize some differences between the classic way and the shift left testing way inside of Miro. But let's compare it in a deep way. So first part is like who gonna implement the test cases, automation test, sorry. For the classic one, the QA gonna write or maybe gonna implement the end-to-end automation test cases, and the developer is gonna write the unit test cases, something like maybe in most of cases, right? Then we have a situation like, do you have maybe like also in your cases, we're gonna after 1 month, we come back to say, hey, look, the test coverage go down. Let's add more unit test cases. Or maybe something like after one month, we're gonna say, hey, maybe let's add some more end-to-end UI regression test cases over there. So this is a classic one. For the shift left, so the QA and dev are both writing all kinds of test cases. Okay, second part. When implement all kinds of tests. Of course, for the classic, we may have some dedicated time if we have enough people or capacity over there. But let's imagine the 5 problems I mentioned at the very beginning. You have a lot of engineers, you have a lot of pull requests over there. It's gonna be something like you're gonna take some time, or maybe like during your free time, or something like weekend or something like that. But for the shift left testing, while coding, if you're going to change the code, think about, do you need to write the new test cases or not, no matter which level we are talking about. The third one is when execute all kinds of tests. Unit test cases, for the classic one, the unit test cases and the integration test cases definitely are executed inside our build pipeline, right? You have Jenkins, you have Bamboo, you have whatever, Circle CI, whatever you have. And the end-to-end test cases are executed inside of executed nightly or weekly or sprintly. You're gonna have but for the shift left, we're gonna run all kinds of the test cases before we merge the new code into the master branch. The last part is very interesting when we're gonna catch the bug or even new bug or regression bug. For the classic one, let's imagine if we run test cases every night, regression test cases, automation test cases every night, we're gonna in the second day, we're gonna say a report in the morning, right? It's the first thing we're gonna do, and then we're gonna analyze the reports. What happened yesterday evening, right? It's a nightmare. It may gonna take a half of your day just to sit in front of the laptop to understand what happened, and go around to ask, oh, who did this stuff, right? Then maybe even worse, if we run the regression test cases at the end of the sprint only, then you're gonna get some surprise at the end. But for the shift left testing, we as maybe you already know that we're gonna immediately get the test report, test results before you merge your new code into the master. So this is a kind of maybe very roughly comparison, right? So we may see other differences, say different things like which we are, let's say, shift left testing really focus on the pieces of code, not really a big feature or something like that. But this is really different, maybe in different cases, also in different company. Okay, let's say these processes, we have to be very honest. Inside of MIRA, we are still working on that. It's not an easy task to convert from the normal way to here, but we need to do that because we want to make the quality assurance be scalable. So sorry. Let's say, but if this is our target, what we're gonna do? How we're gonna achieve this target? Inside of MIRA, that we are gonna tell you a story inside of MIRA, how it starts from in this year. So first, inside of MIRA, that we believe the key to achieve this is to involve everyone. The first thing, can you write the test cases efficiently and autonomically? It's like you or developers can write everything autonomically. They don't need any extra, or let's say, they don't need the help every day, right? Second thing is like fast. You remember that we have 100% pass rules. If you ask them, you give a pull request, you give a pieces of code to test, then you can say, hey, I'm gonna take 1 day then for your, and share the report. And developers gonna be crazy, right? So the fast feedback can be very, very important. The third thing is measurement. We are asking everyone to contribute into the quality assurance instead of only the small pieces, a small group of QA guys here, right? So how do we know we are in the right direction? Or maybe something need to be adjusted? We need to have a clear measurement. So I'm gonna go a little bit detail for each of them. I think I still have some time for that. I'm not over time here. So by these three parts, testing tools, continuous testing processes, and the statistics and metrics. So first, let's go with this testing tools in MIRA. We are gonna give an example of UI testing. We have some troubles at the beginning that let's say for the left side I mentioned it's before and now. For the right side is now and future. You may ask why. I'm gonna definitely explain that. Let's say before and now inside of MIRA. You know that our product is a whiteboard, which is a canvas-based product. So for the testing, for the end-to-end UI testing, we are also using the similar tools as maybe most of the guys in this meetup. The first thing is Java, and then Selenium, TestNG, page object. Sounds very familiar, right? And also a centralized repository. Everyone can go there to write your new test cases. So this is before and now in MIRA. And now and future in MIRA is TypeScript. Language has been changed. Second, the tooling is customized a tool built on top of Playwright. Third one is the test runner is Jest. And the page object that we are doing is like optimized page locators. I'm gonna explain what that means in later. And then the tests are in code repository. So the tests are near to the code. I mean, even the end-to-end test cases. So you may say, hey, Robin, why you joined MIRA that we did these changes? It's kind of like totally everything has been changed, right? Let's say why we make this decision inside of MIRA. First is coding language. We choose the TypeScript. Why? Let's record again that who's gonna write test cases. It's not only QA, right? It's gonna be the developer and QA. The most of developers who are gonna write the front-end test case of end-to-end UI test cases are front-end engineers. Inside of MIRA, our front-end engineer, the main language is TypeScript. So we want to build a collaboration, right? We don't want to build the barrier between the QA and developers or even other people, right? So we should talk about same languages at the beginning. So that's the main reason we chose TypeScript. Second thing, the test runner. You remember previously we are using the TestNG. Now we choose to use Jest. Why? Because the developers write unit tests every day by using Jest. And maybe some guys are using Mocha, right? But in MIRA, that most of guys, nearly all of the guys are writing the unit test cases in Jest. So we are using the same tool. People can hands-on that directly without any documentations or trainings, workshops, right? Third one is cross-browsers. Have you guys get some business requirements about, hey, I want to run my test cases against a Safari. I want to run test cases against the Firefox. Okay, we have to support that. Next thing is cross domains. As you know that, look, currently we are using Miro with Zoom, right? And Miro and Zoom has an integration over there. So we have to test this kind of integration. We have to test the cross domains. Next one is airframe support. Everyone who use Miro can create the plugins by themselves. For example, you can create plugins just to create which going to generate the picture automatically, right? So this plugin going to be airframe. We have to support this testing. And last thing is speed and stability. I don't want to repeat again about why, but I think most of you guys already understand how critical it is for us. Then next thing is collaboration test. As what I mentioned, the MIRA is a collaboration tool that everyone can join into a one board that you can see the real-time result from different participants, right? The last one is cross-machine parallel execution. It's really is really a very critical part if we're gonna support thousands test cases with a lot of release every day, right? A single machine or 2 or 3 machine over there, it doesn't handle this one. Okay. I'm very proud to introduce our internal tool to support it. We call that Spectator. As what I mentioned, that Spectator is built on top of the Playwright. But it's not just a wrapper. I think maybe some of us already know that. Maybe you are using the, how it's called, code concept, right? It is a wrapper for a WebDriver IO, for a Playwright, or I think maybe even for separate. I cannot remember exactly. But this Spectator is not really a wrapper. Let's say it provides something. I'm gonna definitely show a quick screenshot or how it looks like. But let's say maybe what we expect this tool can provide for our developers and QAs. They can write test cases autonomically and efficiently. The first thing is test standards and coding styles by S-Link. We are not talking about 20 people, 30 people. We're talking about 100 developers here. So we cannot go with each other to say, hey, you have to write test cases like this way. But we have to use automatic way to limit people, to, let's say, not limit people, but limit the way of writing the test cases. Second thing is like different philosophy from browser driven to user driven, right? I'm gonna show that after. And then we have embedded test cases management test system and test result history system that you can check how the test cases, the history after 1,000 executions, you can understand is it flagged or not. The Miro specific interfaces, such as we have to drag and drop stickers instead of canvas and canvas screenshot comparison, and the geometry calculations instead of canvas. Next thing is like customize the CLI interfaces, which integrated with our test environments. And we're going to support automatic retry, rerun, and dry run. But besides of that, you know that Playwright support the browsers by default, right? Safari browsers is called WebKit, which is the engine of the Safari by default. So we don't really need to care about that. Hey, I need to find a provider. Maybe guys, you have some third-party providers, right? Browser providers, right? So we don't need to worry too much about that because it's already inside of Playwright. Okay, let's say a quick example. This is how we write test cases at the beginning. For now, to be honest, we are not playing with a browser. We think everything is like a boat, right? When you write end-to-end test cases, you think, hey, I'm a boat. I'm going to simulate the user's behavior. So all the test cases are written from the boat perspective. You're gonna say, oh, I have the boat 1 and boat 2, and then it's very important that for Miro that we can have a lot of boats inside of same task cases. You can check the collaborations. This is something we just discussed about the CLI inside of this tool, Spectator. And you can see that we can rerun test cases, we can create the test project, and we can switch the testing environment. So the developers, they don't want to do something manually, right? If you provide a CLI for them, they can find everything by themselves. Maybe a little bit architecture about this Spectator. Spectator. On the top of the line is test cases. Below the line is the Spectator. So a Spectator have 3 parts. In the top, it's boat, actor, $P. Boat, we already just say that, right? It's a represent a user, which handles all the browser actions. For example, a user, what they can do, they cannot do many things, right? When you get a laptop, you can only use your mouse, your keyboards, your eyes, right? So this is a boat. Actor represents a Miro account, which gonna prepare test the data before you really start your end-to-end UI test cases, right? I don't really think that anyone gonna use a UI to prepare the test data, but most of us maybe are using API. So the actor represents this logic layer. What is $P is like, I think maybe for Selenium customers, you know that the page factory, right? So this is the similar thing. $P is gonna create and maintain the page objects, and to ensure that you don't create a lot of page objects, right? A lot of duplicated objects. Then on the bottom, we have our customized layer. One thing is called user steps. As I mentioned here, is describe a user behavior. And then next thing is called optimized page locators. Why we have this? Because we are not using BDD here, right? We are not using the Cucumber because as maybe other people read some article about BDD. Maybe it's a little bit quite heavy sometimes if you're going to make a big project. Okay, let's say what's the user steps on the optimized page locator. So without user steps, how it looks like, you're gonna have page object A, page object B, page object C. So sometimes you put page locators and also the functions inside of one page classes, right? And then you finally find page object A depends on page object B, and page object B maybe also depends on page object A. In a big project, when you have this, you're going to have a lot of problems. It's very hard to maintain that. So in the right side, what we're going to do is like we split the page object A, B, C, and then we're going to have a user steps A and B. So inside of page object A, B, C, we're going to only define the locators. The business logic is going to be extracted into the user steps A and user steps B. So finally, we don't. So it's not a 1v1 match, right? So it can be you can have a lot of user steps to describe your business, and in another side, you can define your page objects based on your page object models, like page match to each component or pages. Okay, the second part is also very interesting. It's a continuous testing processes. In Miro QA, everyone can merge and release only when all test cases are 100% passed. Maybe you still remember that in the previous picture. Okay, let's say how it looks like in some Miro CLI processes. First, the developer is going to create a branch from master, and then the developers are going to coding, adding, and implement the unit cases, the integration test cases, and end-to-end test cases. And then you're going to make a pull request. After that, the pull request is going to be blocked. You cannot merge in this moment. And then we're going to build the unit test case. We're going to make a build and run the unit test cases and the integration test cases. After that, we're going to start end-to-end test cases. What are we going to do? Locate and lock a testing environment. We see the Act automation testing environment. We're going to create it. We have currently we designed a 12 automation testing environment over there, and deploy the build and run all the end-to-end UI test cases and generate the test report and send notification. So all of this process, you see the red part is 50 minutes. And then we say once everything is green, okay, you have the green light by default, then everything is fine and you can merge and release. Let's say a screenshot. One. Also one more message here. Okay, sorry. And then we're gonna, so for the report side, and then let's say how our report looks like. Our report have a screenshot first when your test cases are failed, right? By default. And then we have the execution logs, and also we have the video and the trace which provided by Playwright default. We attach to that. So these steps, we are not using any Cucumber framework, but this is something result of our user step. So when you read the report, you can see it very easily to understand what happened exactly. Flag test, right? When we talk about 100% pass, and then we're gonna talk about the flag test. What are we gonna do, right? Since we require 100% pass the rule, so flag test always be resolved in early stage, because you cannot delay your flag test in the next build, right? Because you have to make your pull request can be merged. So you're gonna have to fix the flag test. We also have the automatic rerun. We also have the way to mute the flag test to unblock the processes and fix it later. And very important thing is like mechanism to monitor the flag test and share the test cases to owner every week. Okay, after the last part is like statistics and the metrics. Not too many things here because we are still working on this part, but it's a very most critical part for us. First is a flag test categorized by owners. Then we can also, so this is a very important information we extracted and then sent to the test owner. And then second thing is, have you muted test cases? If you muted that, we're gonna also categorize it by owner and we're gonna share it to the owner. The last thing is like amount of test cases categorized by owner. Yeah, this is not very important, right? But for end-to-end test cases, but amount of the test cases, but sometimes it's very important. Then the next part is like unit and integration test coverage. So we use these 4 metrics here to monitor whether we have the right direction of the work of this shift lefting test processes. How this global architecture looks like inside of MIRA, right? So we have the code inside of to put the code is a bit bucket, and our CI is a Bamboo CI. After the Bamboo CI, we're going to send some artifactory to the JFrog. We call that artifactory. And besides of that, once you have new test cases, we create our new old things called test controller. And test controller gonna understand, oh, hey, what should be tested? And also test controller gonna tell people that whether you can merge or not. And then this test controller gonna work with our Jenkins. Our Jenkins gonna create a lot of Jenkins agents automatically based on what's the result there. And then we send the results to our system, to our report system. And then here is our test environments cluster. We have a lot of test environments here. For the let's say measurement system, we have our also internal tools called Telescope. This guy is going to retrieve all this information and send it to the Slack and send to the Looker and to monitor what we have in this situation. Sorry, it's a little bit of a rough introduction, right? Sorry. Maybe you can ask any question there at the end about this testing architecture. Last thing in this processes. You know, this is a very big process. Of course, we have a lot of people here. We cannot get alignment just in 1 minute, right? So we have different opinions in different things. For example, visual regression testing should be part of end-to-end function testing or not. What exactly metrics can reflect the real values of shift left automation testing? Like metrics we picked up is great or not? Using BDD framework, Cucumber, right? Or not, right? It gonna make it more mass or not? The last thing is like, why not use separates, right? I think you guys also asked, hey, maybe Robin, why you don't use separates? And also why we don't directly using Playwright. So we have a lot of these discussions during these processes. It's not an easy task at all, but we have to, but we need to go this to align with all of the guys. Okay, my last slide here. We are hearing from 3 places. We are hearing from Amsterdam, Netherlands. We are hearing from Berlin, Germany. We are hearing from Perm, Russia. So if you want to join us, and if you want to also to face these challenges to resolve resolve these problems together with us, don't be hesitant to join us. Or even you have any new different ideas, innovations, you can feel free to reach to me. I'm sorry that you have to find my Chinese name here. It's a little bit different with my English name. But anyway, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Artie?
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, whoever there was in the camera. We have a couple of questions. I'll start with the last one that just appeared. And, what are the requirements for a QA automation guy, in your opinion? Soft skills, hard skills?
This question for me, right? Okay. So we see Anton also here. Anton is our QA head of QA manager. Please correct me if I'm wrong inside of Miro. From my side, from the soft skills, it's like a very great communications, because communication skills is very important, because we are working with hundreds of developers. How can we clearly, directly spread our ideas and the working ways to developers is very important. And from technically, roughly, I just say roughly, right? I'm not representing the recruiter here. Sorry. Technically, we are expecting people can hands-on something like technique we are using, but also we love the innovation. So as we said that we want to hear every people's voice. So I like people to share their ideas and any innovations. This is something I really love it.
Okay, Dmitry, you want to help me out on the next question? Dmitry?
Yeah, we have just one more question. Before that, maybe you can suggest some advanced playwright courses for JS or TS, or maybe good courses for JS for QA, or maybe you can share some demo project on GitHub or any other CVS.
That's a great point. That maybe we can all definitely share some open source projects that after we reviewed by our legal team instead of Miro. Definitely we can do this. However, it's very, you know, that playwright is start maybe from 2 or 3 years. It's quite new things. And so how I learned playwright by myself is you know that we have the playwright provide a very fancy documentation by themselves. And I just go through all of these documentations every day to understand, hey, is there some new things? So not only by me, and we have also our teammates read that. We have sync meetings every Tuesday and Friday that guys gonna sit together, can share the knowledge with each other. So this is kind of a way inside of Miro that we expand our knowledge. Hopefully I answer your question.
Yeah, and thanks, Anton. He also already shared some links to the JS, JavaScript courses and Playwright courses. So I think it will be useful for everyone. If we don't have any more questions, let's switch to our last but not least speaker today. It's Marina from Flo, and she's going to tell us about data quality management.
Okay, sharing my screen. Thanks guys for your topics. It's very interesting. I think that my topic will be slightly different. Today I will tell you about data quality and actually, to be more precise, about data quality at Flo, what we did for these recent months. So a little bit more details about me. I'm data quality engineer at Flo Health, and I work in data quality domain since 2014. So Before joining Flo Health, I worked for EPAM on different projects and mostly in a finance domain. And was mostly interested in data quality strategies creation for data warehouse and BI projects. So now together with the team, we're establishing data quality at Flo, and I will tell you about a little bit more about details about data quality, what we did. So first of all, I will share with you our main data-related issues that we have had before implementing data quality initiatives. So actually, why we started to do any initiatives in this. Also, I will share how we started to implement, what inspired us, which transformations were successfully implemented, and what not really work as we expected, and of course, was it worth it or no. And yeah, maybe quick spoiler here. Of course it was. Otherwise, my presentation would have slightly different title. So let's start. And to provide you with more clear picture of what we did and why, I will share some context about our application and some data lake numbers. So Flo is the leading women health app globally by total number of installs. What do those numbers look like? Actually, we have more than 200 million total installs and about 43 million MAU, monthly active users. So, and besides, we have 5 main subject areas. It's a cycle tracker, virtual assistant, secret chats, and so on. So each of these areas generates its own content and has its own analytical events that are stored in the data lake for future analysis and researches. So talking about data lake, we have so far we have more than 600 business intelligence reports and about 170 terabytes of data. Maybe this number's a little bit outdated, but several months ago it was around these numbers. And more than 3,000 of tables with data. And it's briefly about the application and data. Now I will highlight main data-related issue we had before and what we want to eliminate or avoid at all in the future. And actually, it's very typical data issues. The most companies have a certain level of growth. So most likely you will recognize some issues you have as well. And if not, like you. So let's start. One of the main problems we wanted to solve is data trustability issue. So what it means, the main idea, we would like to avoid such situations when our data consumers, actually this is data analysts, ML engineers, and data scientists. So we would like to avoid such cases when our data consumers worried about whether data is up to date or no, whether it's correct, full, not duplicated. For example, sometimes our data consumers were sometimes introducing extra grouping in SQL for reports to avoid duplicated data in source, or adding extra case when conditions also in a SQL of reports to exclude records with empty attributes. So it's not a very good cases for data quality, as you see. And one more big issue here is that missed data or some missed bugs were identified too late, and usually at the highest level on business intelligence reports. So sometimes it took several days to notice suspicious data and identify root cause of this issue. And of course, we wanted to identify such bugs much more earlier. Best case, right after data injection into data lake. One more issue is data lineage. And actually absence of clear and available data lineage. We didn't have any tool to quickly identify dependency between certain tables. So if we, for example, spotted some bug in a report, we needed to spend a lot of time tracing the source code and identify what is the source of table, which exact calculations or transformations apply to the data to find the issue. And for example, what downstream tables or dashboards affected by this bug as well, and so on. Again, once the issue is was spotted and root cause of this issue identified, and let's say we identify data bug in source data. To be more precise, source data is data coming from client devices about certain user activities. So if this bug identified in source data, it's hard to find data owner who produced this data. I remember one case when we used Bitbucket history to find who started to produce some events and some hour-long discussion in Slack channels to find out who and why should fix these bugs. And the same issue we had with the shared responsibility. We have several let's say common events. For example, some tracked events when user open home screen, open calendar, and so on. And these events are used for several teams for different analysis, for different researches. And in this case, we have a kind of shared responsibility, what actually means no responsibility. Also, we wanted to avoid such cases. Also, we had a lack of data discoverability. If, for example, someone is looking into tables with data, it's hard to understand the business context of this data, what exactly stored in these tables. And just vice versa case, it's hard to find proper data for analysis if you're looking into data lake, for example, where to find proper ages, birthdays, and so on. If there are similar tables with similar data. So also we had some issues with long onboarding process as well. So once we highlighted the most painful data issues, we started to work on possible solutions to improve them. And of course, any big deal requires clear, straightforward goal. That's why we decided to concentrate only on several most important goals, based on, of course, our main, the most painful issues. So we identified 4 goals that we wanted to achieve. It was clear ownership for all important data sets. Also, we wanted to have these data, important data, covered by data tests and daily, routinely validated, ideally without any manual work required. Also, we wanted to have data easy discoverable and well documented, to do not spend a lot of time finding proper data for analysis. And also we wanted to introduce and always meet some agreed rules, or as we call it, service level agreements. So once we identify these goals, after several brainstorming sessions, we had understanding what exactly could help us to achieve these goals. We identify that data catalog can help us to get more clarity on ownership. It's a good place to have everything in one place. Also, this good tool and have all required features for to improve data discoverability. For example, to make sure tables are covered with data tests validated on daily basis, we needed, it was obvious that we need to have some automation tool. It was required to decide whether we need to buy it, whether we need to create by ourselves. Also, even if we have proper tools, it's obvious that we need to establish data quality initiatives and introduce it into our data engineering workflow. And to do this, we need to introduce data quality policies, or as I say before, some rules. And later on, just monitor whether everyone comply these rules. So after this, we highlighted, defined some high-level plan, and we decided to focus on creating data quality strategy and vision to get more clarity around what is data quality, why we need this, and to have one unified vision and share it around all teams. Also, we decided that we need to establish data quality policies and create some automation monitoring for this. And of course, we cannot only provide some policies and some rules without providing any tools to do this. So we decided to provide instruments for automated data validation and data discovery and lineage for other teams to make it smooth and to implement data quality initiatives around the company. So Looks too simple, I know, but actually we spent a lot of time to make it simple, to choose only the most important goals, to focus on them. We challenged a lot our strategy inside our team first, and only then we started to share it with other teams, with Flo leadership. Now I will tell you about in more details about implementation itself, because there are a lot of information in or the internet you can find about what is data quality, but usually it's only some theoretical topics. So now I will show you how exactly practically we did it. So as we planned, we started from data quality vision and strategy creation. We inspired by Airbnb experience. We found out some interesting topics on medium source. So, and actually it was data issues in this company was very similar to our. We implemented data quality vision and strategy, where described our main goals and how exactly we are going to achieve them. We agreed and signed off the strategy with Flo leadership. Later on, I will tell you why. Next one. What exactly our vision and strategy content? There are pretty a lot information, but the most important points on which we wanted to focus, it's first of all, again, outlining our scope of work. Of course, we would like to validate the whole data lake and make sure all possible tables are covered with tests, but need to start with small steps to have some progress. So we decided to focus on the first layer of data lake. It's highlighted on this screen. Actually, we call first level of data lake, it's a kind of raw data, some information about user activities in the application, and new tables with additional transformations or any other calculations are created based on this first level of data. So obviously, if this initial data contains some data issues, then all subsequent tables created based on this data also will contain incorrect data from scratch. So we decided to focus on only on this initial data that are coming from about user activities. Second point, that we are moving responsibility for data quality to product teams. Actually, teams who exactly producing this data. Previously, responsibility of product team finished somewhere on data ingestion step. So they just made sure every event was sent to Kafka, for example, and that's it. But that's not enough, and event can be sent, but could be not received or not fully received. So this bottleneck we wanted to fix by setting proper responsibility for data owners. Then we are moving to promised data quality tools. Yes, and we created data quality framework based on Scala and using Amazon DQ library. This is open source tool library, actually developed by Amazon, and as they say, using for internal needs as well. This framework works with files on Amazon S3, use Spark for computation and all actually all Spark benefits in place. And in our case, we have Airflow for orchestration. Also, we have learned some experience from Airbnb, how important to provide unified tool for data quality tests, to share around product teams, to avoid situations when inside one company, each team adopted their own tests and approaches to do this in Scala, Python, or just SQL. Later on, this became not scalable, and there is no way for any centralized view about test coverage. And also I would like to mention about some time. Not everything was very quickly, and it was not a first and proper our decision. Before the queue, we had some trials with Apache Griffin, with just Python tests. So just need to keep in mind that it's not always possible to choose perfect solution from first time. Here's how simple data checks looks like. Actually, there are a lot of, this library contains a lot of predefined data checks and make very easy for everyone to create data tests, for even for those who have never written code. It's very quickly to add tests for the tables. Also, if you are interested in data quality, you probably have heard about data quality dimensions. That data quality can be measured in several common dimensions, such dimensions like completeness, validity, uniqueness. I will not spend a lot of time to talk about this because, again, there are a lot of information about this. I just like to, I would like to mention that DQ contains predefined data checks that are suitable for us and covers these main data quality dimensions as well. Also, we added possibility for anomaly detection tests. In our case, anomaly detection is applied for count of records per each table. It detects anomaly based on running mean and standard deviation. We use online normal strategy because we have mostly normally distributed data. But it's also possible, DQ also supports several more models for different types of data with different distribution type. So again, our first choice also was not really proper. We had a lot of false positive alerts before, but finally, this model was perfectly suitable for us. And of course, we provided team with proper alerts functionality in one unified Slack channel. So if, for example, some tests failed, notification will be sent with a short description and a link to logs, more detailed logs. Also, we created a unified dashboard for monitor and test coverage. This dashboard is automatically sent into Slack channel every day in the mornings. Also from this dashboard, there's a possibility to have a look into some failed tests and check into details what exactly was wrong. That's briefly about our tool provided to improve data quality. Now, let's talk a little bit about second one our tool. This is data catalog. In accordance with our plan, we launched, also we have very long story with proper data catalog chosen to satisfy all needs. But finally, we launched data catalog Atlan and started adoption around our users. To get more, to provide more details, data catalog is a collection of metadata combined with data management and search engine. Here's how table details looks like inside of data catalog. Short table description to provide knowledge about the data, team owner, test results, area with linked some reference, linked test, and I will add more details for each section. For example, data ownership. As you may remember, our painful data issue was related to data ownership. So we created a rule that each team should have defined team owner. It's actually a team that produced the data and responsible for maintaining this data and checking for tests. Also, some specific persons can be mentioned here as a data owner or expert. Next one, yes, it's a description to provide clarity about data purpose. Also, there's a section with mandatory information, such as, for example, data population type. It means how exactly this data populated in our data catalog. It can be streaming, batch process, change data capture, or ETL process, and any other useful information can be stored here. Also, each table should be linked with a proper business glossary terms. Business glossary terms, it's terms organized in a way to help people understand purpose and context of this data. For example, what exactly means active user, how to identify them. We can store here any unified metrics appropriate for the company. But so far, it's only a recommended option in our case. Also, we integrated our data quality tests results with Atlan data catalog. So here, so now everything in one place. Description of data. You can see here how test executed today. You can find the owner. You can check some classifications like whether this data public or contains some PII data. Besides this, our main options we need to improve data discoverability. Data catalog has several additional features like SQL queries running, data profiling, and automated data lineage, what we actually really needed. So once we tested both these tools, framework for data quality tests and data catalog options, it was a proper time to introduce new rules. So we introduced data quality policies and shared these policies around the company. What exactly the policies? There are two main parts, data assessment or data quality itself and data discoverability rules. Talking about data assessment, it's required that each table is covered with data tests using our framework and include such type of tests like as data completeness, uniqueness, validity tests, and of course, anomaly detection tests. Also, it's required to have two types of tests, one for full data set verification, and second one for subset of data verification, but today's fresh data to make sure that data is in place. Also there should be unit tests implemented into data pipeline. And talking about data discoverability rules, it's required to populate all fields in a data catalog that I mentioned just above. It's about team owner, description, links to test, and so on. And we introduced data certification process. So what it means? The main goal of this certification process is to make sure data represent gold standard of data quality. So, if a table complying all data quality policies I mentioned above, this table will get such green icon in a data catalog, and as a result, data consumers is able to check everything in one place and get more clarity about whether this data is trustable for future analysis or not. And of course, we implemented dashboards for data quality policies monitoring. And as of now, we have about 70% of tables receive data certification. And we still working on this. We have a lot of plans what we need to do next. And if we are talking about was it worth it or not, of course, all people like numbers. We have a lot of cases when data quality tests identified actual problems, bugs, when they identified some human mistakes. But as a good example, of importance of data quality tests, I'd like to share one real case we had. It's when anomaly detection tests identified daily active users decrease in 1 million users. So it was side effect of new release. There are some tips to take away. Of course, it's never too late to start introducing data quality, but again, the best option to do this as soon as possible, as soon as data pipeline is implemented. So just start to implement data quality initiatives and keep in mind that these initiatives also required a lot of effort, even if you have a decision about proper tools and that you will be used. Do not afraid of start working with data quality. Start with some small steps, as we did in our case, create proof of concept for some tools, test it, then share policies, and soon you will see tangible results. So also, it's important to provide tools, templates, and best practices, and of course, support of these people who are starting to implement data quality. Also need to keep in mind that a lot of effort should be spent to adoption and support, because without this, it can be like a diet project. And as it was in our case, get leadership approval and support for more smooth adoption around other teams, because everyone had a lot of work to do. And in our case, when we had shared vision, shared strategy, and approved by Flo Health leadership, in our case, adoption of data quality and implementation of these policies took place a little bit quicker. So actually, that's it. I would like to highlight today. We'll be happy to answer your questions if you have.
Hey guys, don't be shy. We're almost done, but still there is time for questions. And I would like to thank you, Marina, because that was a very interesting topic for me. I used to be kind of into data science, and
Thanks.
very interesting. So last chances for asking questions. And if no questions arise, still, this will all be posted on YouTube. We'll probably come back in a couple of months, see a lot of comments there, and probably have to come back and answer them. The cool thing is that I don't know about you guys, but I have seen more or less a general idea of that task management automation have the same underlying principle in that all of our talks today were about. If you want to achieve good quality and save your time, to start early and with the small steps. So the whole idea of evolutionary, very subtle increment, and are amazingly powerful when you do it on a sustainable basis. Oh, we have a question for Anil, from Anil, and I think, Marina, you can answer that. How is data quality and software quality interlinked?
Good question. Thank you. Actually, if we're talking about data quality, it's everything about quality. And if we're talking about data quality, I think this we have one big purpose of this. We need to figure out whether this data is a fit data consumer satisfaction or not. If not, we don't need it. The same with software quality, talking about tools. Again, if these tools fit any user satisfaction, do not contain a lot of bugs, a lot of issues, then we can say that it's about quality. If not, then work should be in progress, I think. I hope I answer your question. If not, please add something more, maybe more details.
I would also love to continue on that. Now, the greatest point of data quality when you ensure the quality of the data sources that you have is that based on those data sources, you can create test data which is much more reliable, which is much closer to the actual users' behavior. And that means when you have like stage. The test stages, you will be able to bring your quality assurance efforts closer to the real life, the customer end environment. So test data needs to be based on the data that you have gathered, and it needs to be high quality so that your test data is as close to real life as possible. Okay, let's end at this. Thank you for your time. Thanks for coming and staying with us. It was a pretty long workshop, pretty long webinar. If you liked it, just keep in touch. Look out for more events on LinkedIn and anywhere else where you find something with our names on it. And the most important thing, if you have found something useful in our words today, feel free to use it in your quality assurance efforts. Hopefully we'll make the world around us a little bit more reliable and a little bit more predictable and just nice for everyone. So thanks, Robin. Thanks, Marina. Thanks, Dmitry. Thanks, everybody who was here today with us. And have a good night.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.